Well, since our last annual conference, it's been another very busy and exciting year. We've had a change of government in March this year. In the lead up to that, we had, of course, our public sector bargaining campaign happening. That made for very interesting times, and our members did a fantastic job lobbying the previous government and now the current government, letting them know what their views were about the need to get a fair deal quickly for the nurses and midwives who work in the public sector. So it's been challenging and very interesting, and we've had to become very nimble. Well, overall, we've worked very hard to represent the interests and values of our members across all sectors. So we haven't only been public sector focused, even though with the EB8 negotiations and payroll, that's taken up a lot of time. We've also been very focused on the needs of members in private hospitals and in aged care, with private hospitals EBs commencing for the major facilities, and also we haven't given up on the Because We Care campaign and delivering a fair outcome for nurses who work in aged care. Primary healthcare has also been an increasing focus for the union, given the National Health Reform agenda. So we've been busy across all sectors, but what motivates us is making sure that we advance our members' interests and values at every quarter. Look, we are in very interesting and challenging times politically. We don't know what's going to lay ahead for us. We've seen what's happened interstate with commissions of audit down there in Queensland. They have announced, as we know, their own commission of audit, and they have released an interim report for that, which tends to catastrophise the situation that the state's in, and we don't agree with the assessment of that commission of audit. So we are fearful there'll be a lot of slashing and burning to come, but we will certainly be there advancing our members' interests, boots and all. That's our role, is to make sure that our members' interests are taken care of, and we'll continue to do that at every opportunity. The QNU has reviewed its rules commencing a couple of years ago, because we haven't actually undertaken a comprehensive review for many, many years. It's really important that we make sure that we have the highest levels of governance as an organisation, and that's what actually drove us with this rule review. So it wasn't only about making sure that our governance was at the highest level, it was also about making sure that the rules were contemporary, that they avoided duplication, and they facilitated us operating in the most effective manner possible. So it's been a lot of work undertaking this rules review, and it's a lot of people think it's pretty boring work, but it's absolutely essential work, and it's absolutely essential particularly in the current environment where unions are under the spotlight in terms of their own governance, and our members can rest assured that through this rules review we have the highest level of governance that we think that a union should strive to achieve.
We estimate we've grown by approximately 9% over the last 12 months. We think that's a pretty good growth rate. We're pleased with it, and we're projected to reach 50,000 by hopefully the end of this year. We're only about 300 short of 50,000 members. So that makes us the biggest union in Queensland, and there are good reasons why that growth has been sustained over a period of time. I think we can attribute the growth to the fact that we have always been and remain a campaigning union. We listen to our members, and we develop the structures that our members need to make their voice heard. Being the biggest union is about ensuring that we have the structures in place so that our members' views and aspirations can be heard loudly and clearly by those who are making the decisions in this state. One of the key industrial focus points for us in the last year has been enterprise bargaining in the public sector. That's been a significant challenge, but it's a challenge for which we were prepared and which we started preparation for in September, October of last year. That allowed us to be in a position when it really mattered to deliver an agreement in principle that we felt was the best that we could do in the existing political and economic environment. One of the other areas that has consumed a lot of time and resources, not just for the union but for individual members as well, is the payroll fiasco. This year we've seen more recently with the election of the new government, the lifting of the moratorium on overpayments, and there have been a series of meetings in relation to providing a process that is both fair and reasonable for members in that recovery process. The union has been heavily represented in those discussions and will continue to play an active role in ensuring that any processes that are implemented are not unfavourable to our members' interests. One of the big challenges for the union this year will be the bargaining of quite a number of enterprise bargaining agreements for private hospitals. As members would be aware, the private hospital system has changed significantly over the last 20 or 30 years. It is now highly corporatised, and the challenges that presents to the union in negotiations are significant. We are seeing a trend with some of the private hospitals to try and claw back conditions that have been hard fought for and won over a number of years. That's a very worrying development for the union, and it's one that we will take very seriously, and we will employ significant resources to ensure that we get the best outcome for members in the private hospitals. Obviously, one of those outcomes is to maintain parity or better with the public sector. One light on the horizon is the federal government's recent announcement this year of a compact between the federal government, aged care employers and aged care unions. That gives us some hope that we will finally see the beginnings of wage justice in the aged care system, but we have a long way to travel in relation to the final arrangements in relation to that compact and how it will in fact be applied across the aged care sector. We are currently in discussions with the federal government through our ANF colleagues at federal office level, and we will hopefully be able to report some news to members in the near future on that. I would have to say though that this compact proposal would not have eventuated had it not been for the very determined efforts of the Federation in relation to putting this on the front page as a major issue, not just industrially but socially, and in terms of a fairer and juster society for frail aged people and the people who work in that industry.
As a member-based organisation, the QNU is driven by evidence. So we hear from our members regularly about what they expect of the union and what our priorities should be that through our communications review that we've done, our recent review of our strategic plan. We're currently undertaking a review of that. And we're also undertaking focus groups right now, given we've got a really challenging political and social environment about what our priorities should be from a political and social perspective. So we seek the views of members, and that drives our strategy and that drives our policy. We were very excited to be able to launch QNU Legal Plus this year. It's been a fair few years in the planning. We thought it was really important to be able to offer to our members a significant value on with regards to the legal services that they can access through legal firms that we use on a regular basis. So of course we access legal services for members on industrial matters or professional matters and the like, but we thought that members should be able to access those legal services for their personal matters, so be it a property matter or family law or any matter that's not work related. They can now go to one of our 4 legal tender firms and seek really discounted services from the Legal Plus solicitors. So it's a very exciting initiative, and we're really pleased to be able to offer that to members. This year the QNU hosted the inaugural Professional Practice and Ethics Conference in March, which was a really fantastic event and very well attended. It was important for us to do that because, as we all know, nurses and midwives now have CPD requirements that they have to meet on behalf of the Nursing and Midwifery Board of Australia, and the union really wants to be active in assisting members to meet their CPD requirements. For example, this year we'll be launching at annual conference a CPD DVD that's about the leadership that nurses and midwives show on an everyday basis through their working lives. So that's a very exciting initiative. As I said, we'll be looking at every opportunity, being more strategic in the use of our journal in terms of journal articles that will be able to be used as CPD points. We've undertaken a particular project looking at CPD and how we can assist members to meet their requirements, and so expect to see more in coming months about how the QNU will be assisting members in this regard. It's very important that we do so, that we continue to remain relevant to the members and their needs, because our members are telling us through feedback that they would really appreciate additional support from the union with regards to meeting their CPD requirements. The QNU has been incredibly strong in our advocacy to NMBA and AHPRA with regards to concerns that we had about the various standards, particularly the Professional Indemnity Insurance Standard and the English Language Competency Standard. Through our advocacy and lobbying, we've been able to secure significant improvements to those standards, so we're very pleased that that is the case. They're still not perfect, they're still not everything that we sought, but if the QNU hadn't taken a stand and said that these just aren't good enough, they wouldn't have improved at all. So we're very pleased to have seen that there has been movement in that regard, and that our members are now better positioned because of the changes that have been made to those standards. There's absolutely no doubt that the focus for the union in the coming year is going to be on issues like workloads and skill mix across all sectors. There's increasing pressures with regards to budgets across all sectors. There's the ageing of the population that's putting increasing pressures on our members, no matter what sector they work in. So it's going to be absolutely critical that we remain vigilant to ensure that standards of nursing and midwifery practice are maintained, and that our members have really appropriate workload management processes in place, and that they have the skill mix that they need to deliver the high quality of services to the Queensland community. Unions have always been at the forefront of positive social change in Australia. That's very important that the QNU continues to be a strong voice for positive social change. We've sought feedback from our members in this regard. Given the changing political and social circumstances right now, we're conducting some focus groups across the state to hear back from members about what they believe we should be doing in those arenas, both social and political arenas. What are the important issues for them? The QNU continues to have a very strong focus on Indigenous health disadvantage. The Australian Nursing Federation was one of the first unions to sign up to developing a reconciliation action plan, because nurses and midwives have a pivotal role to play in closing the gap in Indigenous life expectancy. So we've continued to work with the ANF in advancing that. There's much more that we can be doing in that regard though. The QNU continues to support Union Aid Abroad, AFIDA. We've been long-standing supporters of AFIDA for many years, and we've supported projects overseas that aim to improve the health of people, particularly in Southeast Asia and the Pacific region. So we continue to fundraise for AFIDA and to support their projects on our own and through the Australian Nursing Federation. We've also undertaken, closer to home, fundraising activities on behalf of homeless people in Brisbane through our International Nurses Day, International Day of the Midwife breakfast. Every year we raise money for the 139 Club, and that's a really fantastic local charity which we're proud to support, and we will continue to do so into the future. The state election had a major impact on the operations of the QNU this year. We knew that the election was coming and we were well prepared for it. We had commenced our EB negotiations with Queensland Health in October last year, and we were gearing our members up to be very active in campaigning to deliver a fair outcome for members and to deliver it quickly. We knew that we'd get caught up in caretaker mode, and that indeed did happen. So our members were absolutely magnificent. Thousands of them sent emails to the then Premier Anna Bligh and the opposition leader Campbell Newman, demanding a fair deal for nurses and midwives who are employed by Queensland Health, and to have that deal delivered very quickly after the state election. And because of the magnificent activity of our members, we were able to deliver on that pretty promptly. And it is the case now that a deal is being considered by members, and we should have the outcome of that ballot known by the end of July. The current political environment is extremely challenging, and there are a lot of unknowns. So far we have had a number of collaborative meetings with the new Health Minister, Lawrence Springborg. We have done our usual briefing presentation for the Minister. It's quite a detailed brief that we prepare for every incoming Minister, because we just can't assume that health ministers really know and understand what it is that nurses and midwives do. So we put a lot of effort into preparing a document that will fully brief the Minister and their staff on what the issues of concern are for our members. So we were able to negotiate with the Health Minister about delivering on an EB8 deal for nurses employed by Queensland Health. We've had some discussions that have been valuable too with regards to payroll, for example, and members who have been falsely accused of payroll fraud, and we're hoping to see some headway in that regard. But I do have to say we're very concerned about the budget situation within Queensland Health now, particularly given the transition to health and hospital services and the fact that an establishment management program has been put in place, and we are lobbying very fiercely to ensure that that doesn't have a negative impact on our members, the nurses and midwives who are employed by Queensland Health. It is the case that the government has said that frontline staff, such as nurses and teachers, are exempt from the establishment management program, but unfortunately that's not what we've seen on the ground. We have had to intervene on a number of occasions about when nursing positions have been adversely impacted because of the budget situation. So it's going to be a very close watching brief. We will be extremely vigilant, and we will make sure that our business planning framework, the tool for managing our workloads, will be applied to the letter of the law.
To ensure that we have democracy, we need good structures and good processes in place that allow our members to have a say on both local issues but the broader issues that affect them industrially and professionally. We believe we're working towards that goal, and we need to continue to refine those structures in order to ensure that we build the best possible representative network for members across the state. We must never forget why we are here, and we are here to do nothing else but represent our members in their daily endeavours and ensure that this profession survives into the future and is recognised for the valuable work that it does.
The biggest challenges for the union and its members in the last year have been political uncertainty at both the state and federal level, I'd say, would have to be the biggest challenge. That also throws up opportunities, of course, in times of uncertainty. If we're organised and if we have a plan, we can deliver for members, and that's what we're remaining focused on doing, is actually delivering for members through being vigilant but also being nimble and opportunistic when we can. When opportunities arise, we'll be in there advancing the interests and values of our members. At a national level, we will be really focusing on nursing and midwifery and the difference that we make to the community every day of the week, and expect to see more in terms of a positive message about nursing and midwifery and how important a role we play in caring for our community, and how really essential we are to the delivery of high quality, safe health services for the Australian community. This last year has been another challenging year for the QNU and its members. We have certainly acquitted ourselves very well on a number of fronts, though, across all sectors, public, private aged care. Our members have campaigned long and hard to advance nursing and midwifery, to keep nursing and midwifery strong. And even though we are facing challenging and difficult times, I'm confident that we'll continue to be able to achieve great things on behalf of nurses and midwives and the community of Queensland.